Hi, this is going to be a quick introduction into the Illumination editor, which is in the desktop app only, and that can be downloaded for free on audiobooks.illuminated.com. So we've got The Call of the Wild by Jack London, and it's a normal audiobook file. And what we will do is open up the Illuminations editor, and we've got a timeline showing the full duration of the book. In the lower right here, we've got a zoom button, which will zoom into a fixed zoom level. Same with the zoom out button. To do a more granular zoom, you can hold the control button and use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. So the Call of the Wild begins with the author introducing Buck, which is a dog, and so I've queued up an image and will drop it in directly from the browser. What you'll see in the editor is that the get that out of the way. The image goes for the complete duration of the book. So keyframes have an always on nature. And so in order to change an image or to turn off an image, it has to be replaced by another image. And so if you actually wanted the image to go away and not be replaced by something, you'd have to replace it with an like a black single pixel image or something like that. Images are imported automatically at a zoom level of 1, which is basically a fit to screen zoom level. And so what this means is regardless of the aspect ratio of the screen or the size of the screen, the full image will be displayed. And the way positioning of the images works is not based on like where the image is on the canvas. It's based on a focal point on the image itself. So this allows oddly shaped images to always have the what you decide is the focal point to be in focus on the screen. And so to illustrate this, we'll go into zoom mode, which allows us to adjust the pan and zoom of the image. And we'll zoom into the dog's face here. And so we'll save this and leave zoom mode. And so now what we'll see is regardless of the screen size and the screen aspect ratio, the dog's face is always in the center of the screen. And so this is, I think, particularly useful if you were to have a map following you know, Frodo as he goes through Middle Earth. You can follow along, and the point of interest will always be in the center of the screen. In order to animate, what we need to do is add another keyframe. And so what we'll do is we'll press the duplicate keyframe button, and this made a new keyframe, I believe 30 seconds later. And you can adjust the duration between when you create a new keyframe in the editor settings. And if 30 seconds is too much or too little, you can adjust the default duration. And you can change this by dragging as you get the timing set the way that you want it. As it is now, there's no animation because both keyframes have the exact same position. So to create an animation effect, we select a keyframe, and what you may notice is this blue keyframe is pulsing blue, and if we go down here, the green keyframe begins pulsing. The pulsing indicates it's implicitly selected. And so if I go into zoom mode, yellow means explicitly selected. And so this can hopefully reduce some of the confusion if I want to edit this keyframe and then I leave zoom mode and the keyframe becomes unselected and I zoom it or go into zoom mode again. The pulsing indicates what keyframe is currently being displayed on screen. So let's make some animation by selecting this keyframe. We'll go into zoom mode and we'll position the image the way that we want. Once we've saved that position, we'll exit zoom mode. And so now we have animation going from the first keyframe to the next keyframe. And so this is
From its brumal sleep
how it
wakens the
looks.
ferine strain. Buck did not read the newspapers, or he would have known that trouble was brewing, not alone for.
And so you might want to adjust the speed of the animation by reducing the time between them. One of the things we can do with keyframes is add text that will be displayed in the apps. Text can be adjusted by users for whether or not to display it at all or to change how long the text will be displayed. So what I'm going to do is add a quote to this image here. And let's go ahead and save this. And so now if we view this.
Buck did not read the newspapers, or he would have known that trouble was brewing.
We now have this text here. One of the things to be aware of, or one of the features that we have, is what's called the carryover system. One of the problems is if this was a multiple frame animation, and we can do that by let's just do this. So now we've got multiple animations on the same image, but we might want this quote to last for the entire animation. So if you were to copy this text and paste it in here, what would happen is while playing, we would trigger a display of the text and it would time out based on the user setting, and then it would trigger again. And then it would trigger again if you had pasted it in here. And so what we've got instead is a carryover system where you simply put in a period and save it. And now it's treated as one continuous section with this text. And so what that means is as we play,
Ship and transportation companies were booming the find. Thousands of men were rushing into the Northland.
text disappears.
These men wanted dogs, and the dogs they wanted were heavy dogs with strong muscles by which to toil, and furry coats to
and
protect
does
them
not
from the frost.
trigger again, but
Buck
it
lived
can
at a
be
big house in the
recalled.
sun-kissed Santa Clara Valley.
And this also saves some space in the manifest files when the illuminations are packaged. This So the carryover, the period works on both the titles and the notes. I mostly only use quotes, and so um, yeah. Well, I may need to do some work on how titles and notes are displayed because I primarily only use the notes. What we can also notice here, and let's zoom in, is the gradient between these keyframes. And so this is to indicate that there's animation between these keyframes. And then after this keyframe, it doesn't animate because there's no new keyframe providing uh, a new position to move the image to. The author mentions Santa Clara Valley, and so we'll add a new image here. And we can see, let's go ahead and zoom in. We can see that there's no animation here because it's a solid color, and we can see it instantly switch over to a new color as this is a new image. So that's kind of the very basics of the animation system. I actually don't recommend animating this way by hand for most images like fan art or screen captures or things like that. For a map, it's probably fine. But what I would recommend instead is dropping in the images without animations and getting the timing right of when you want those images to show up, and then applying the animations to them using the animation presets. The reason for this is you may have noticed the framing on here might look fine for desktop, but on mobile, there's this big black square up here, which doesn't look great in my opinion. Um, and so what you can do is set up animation presets that are designed for landscape mode and another set of presets for portrait mode, and then apply those to different variants, which are different view modes of this basically the same images. Anyways, this is getting a little bit long, and so we'll end this here. And so this is just a basic introduction to some of the features and core concepts the of the Illumination editor. And so we'll end it here.